Fokotani bogogo. Ngelesiko lesiswati kuthiwa indlela ibutwa kulaba phambili. Hayi bonini nisihambile lendlela naze nayifike ekugcineni. Njengoba nathi lena indlela yesikolo sesihambile saze sayifike ekugcineni kodwa hayi. Njengamanje kuyasinza kuyenyukela kunendlela. Siyasiqeda isikolo kodwa hayi ayikho imisebenzi. Hayi bo siyacela nini labazali bogogo omkhulu. Siyathi ukuthi emandla alelekini. Siyathi ukuthi thina lengadi legeleta kithi indlela yebobukhosi. Hayi bobo Dlamini, hayi bonini bomangethe, hayi bonini bosikothi siyacela kini njengebantu abenu sithi sifikile. Siyathi ukuthi emandla alaleta ndlenteno. Kungini le into awuhamba lendlela nisiholele yona phambili. Siyacela kini ukuthi njengoba sesifikile singebantu abenu sishweleta, singcweleta ukuthi nikhanyise leti ndlela tethu. Siyawalayitela amakhandlela sithi makube ngini labayiholayo lendlela phambili. Injabulo nenfokodo mayingapheli ngemalanga wema-graduation. Kuliletela nomkhulungwana. Makube yinvo le ichubekayo empilweni tethu. Makube khona kukhanya. Siyathi ukuthi thina nisifisela lokuhle ngathi tonke isikhathi. Siyathi ukuthi nini akukho lokubele nisifisela kona. Sesifikile kini ngoba sathi, ngoba sithemba ukuthi uma sicele kini akukho lokudlula lokho. Sihamba uma ngabe kukhona lesingakwenzi kahle siyaqela kini sidlulisa kuxolisa kini. Siyacela ukuthi lo mhlatshelo manje wamngene ngetinhliziyo tethu letimsulwa, ngetinhliziyo tethu lokude kungcola. Siyathi ukuthi nini nifuna lokumsulwa kuphela. Hayi bo kugeleta khona kwemifula nemandi la engcwele. Siyathi ukuthi thina sikubeka kini. Hayi bo sibanga abantu abenu. Sithi thina manitikhanyise letindlela nisohole. Makube yini labahamba phambili, labasikhanyiselayo, labasivulelayo letindlela. Ukuze kuthi nathi sikhona ukuthi si-uplift imindleni yenu. Ukuthi sibe khona ukuthi sikhona ukuthi sinihlabele lokho lokukhona. Sikube khona lokho sikunibongayo ngathi. Hayi bo maningaselahli, maningasegezeli tandla labazala. Bogogo omkhulu siyathemba, siyanxusa, siyacela ukuthi nini nisivule letindlela. Hayi bo siyacela. Hayi bo thina singabenu. Boswane, bomangethe, bosikota, bonshontsho. Hayi bonini bedlofu. Sicela kini sithi thina siyashweleta. Makube khona khanya. Kube emigaqweni la sihamba khona. Kube etindleleni lapha esikolo sikudlula khona etikhukhuleni nako konke lokubi. Kodwa siyathi ukuthi nini nikhona. Siyathi ukuthi ngeke nini nisehlulele. Angeke thina nize nisilahlele tandla nisegeza. Manithi vete nini labazala. Makube ngini labakhona. Makube ngithi labanivule imehlo ukuthi thina siyibone le ndlela.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now proceeding. I'm going to share the program, and we are moving into the sub-theme of our proceedings entitled Indigenous Knowledge Systems in Teaching, Learning, Research, and Community Engagement. Basically, the core business of higher education. I'd like to invite our chairperson for this session, Meti Nyoni, from the University of Venda.
Thank you very much, Mayashri. I would like to introduce myself. As you said, it's T Nyoni, but I'm Tsakani Nyoni, and I am a research assistant under community engagement. I've also been newly appointed as a junior lecturer in the University of Venda. And lastly, I also coordinate the IKS student chapter within our university. Without any further ado, I would like to read a short bio of our next speaker, which is Dr. Mcholoko Zulumatabo Zulu, who is a doctoral practitioner, metaphysical scientist, cosmologist, custodian of indigenous medical manuscripts, research scientist, and director of private Madisebo University College Research Institute. He is a technological inventor and software engineer with more than 20 years of experience, which includes a graphics engine for Google Inc., a forensic software for NCR, computer operations for Bell Northern Research of Canada, and reverse engineering for the Government of Canada. Zulu completed a doctoral dissertation in the Basotho Doctoral School of Muphato wa Bongaka in the Free State Province of South Africa in 2017, and will be publishing a book based on this. Zulu graduated in 1997 in General Arts and Science with concentration in computing and mathematics at Algonquin College of Applied Arts and Technology, a postgraduate certificate in object-oriented analysis and design at Praxis Institute in 1998, and advanced software engineering at Carleton University. He further completed more than 10 years of independent research in brain processing, which began in 1995 and ended in 2006 at the University of Ottawa, and was awarded intellectual property certificate by the Canadian Intellectual Property Office for the invention of Tequini Visual Canvas, a visual stimulus processing engine for therapeutics on the knowledge disciplines of cryptography, digital forensics, mood diagnostics, visual processing, and Africography. It further says that he's a published author with more than 10 books and hundreds of scientific manuscripts. Thank you very much. I would like to call our speaker you can start with your presentation now.
Okay. Thank you very much. Siyathokoza Makosi, trying to get my video. Okay, I'm not able to start my video. It says the host has to give me permission to see my video. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, it says you cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
So what resolve that issue?
Yeah.
Are you still also requiring to share your screen?
No, I just wanted to just start my video.
Not a problem.
But it doesn't allow me because the host has stopped my video. So the host needs to enable my video. Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's highly appreciated. Now I don't see myself here. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Thank you very much. Okay, so I'll be talking about indigenous knowledge, engineering, and innovation as part of the sub-theme. And the whole idea is to underpin the importance of innovation, because since we're talking about the job, it is important to have the concept of innovation. And a lot of previous speakers have made excellent points about this. So I just want to make my contribution as well. So basically, the question always is knowledge, like, you know, what is knowledge, or how knowledge is defined. And usually knowledge is defined in terms of its content, you know, like, for example, economics, they say is about the economy. You know, mathematics is about numbers. History is about past events. So you see how they define knowledge in terms of its of what it is doing, or in terms of its content. But knowledge actually should be broader than that. So for example, so I want you to think about knowledge not so much as a consumer of knowledge, but also as a knowledge engineer. So that means you should also think about knowledge in terms of its design principles, because that's going to be very important in terms of being innovative. And that's very useful for indigenous knowledge systems. So I gave a lecture and then it was in the Faculty of Education. And then I asked a question about mathematics, you know, like what, like do they do any mathematics as part of their program? They said yes. And I asked them, do you have a mathematics books? They said yes. Then I asked them 100 pages, and how long does it take to finish the book? They say it takes them about 10, 11 months. And even after 11 months, they still don't have enough time about this book. Then I said, okay, what about if we could then, you know, Then they said, well, I mean, we have trouble finishing it in 10 months, so how can we finish it in 10 days? Then I said, okay, how about 10 minutes, finishing the whole book in 10 minutes? You know, and at that point, people are no longer responding. He doesn't understand that we can't finish it in 10 months, so how can we finish it in 10 minutes? And so then I made the point that I said, okay, let's say, you know, there's an alien who comes from Mars and is interested in your knowledge system. So, and let's say mathematics about, and they only have five minutes to do that, because, you know, the government is always chasing and trying to arrest the aliens, that sort of situation. And even 5 minutes is too much, because, you know, you need to give the alien 2 minutes so that they can ask some questions to clarify. So you actually have 3 minutes to cover the whole 400 pages of mathematics. So then I explained that, you know, the only way you can do this is to really know what mathematics is about. And basically, mathematics is about 3 things. You know, it's about logic, and it's about relations, and it's about patterns. So you can spend a minute explaining this logic aspect of mathematics, 1 minute explaining these relations, and the other minute explaining the patterns. And the whole 400 pages can be reduced to that. So I'm just making this point just to show that it's going to be very important moving into the 4th industrial revolution, and also trying to get indigenous knowledge graduates into the economy to really conceptualize about knowledge in a much more broader sense. And maybe one of the things to understand or appreciate this fact is to know the sources of knowledge. Now, of course, you know, the way the sources are conceptualized, they always talk about the primary knowledge. Like when you go out in the community, you do research, and that's described as primary knowledge. And then when you do your, you know, literature review, that's secondary knowledge, and so forth. We need to rethink that, because actually what we consider to be primary knowledge, like going to the community, doing research, like the way our students do, actually that kind of research is actually a public domain source of knowledge. Because in the public domain, you know, you've got all kinds of stuff. You've got dogma, you've got newspapers, you've got mass media, you know, you've got doctrines, political stuff, and so forth. So it's really not really primary. It's not a primary source of knowledge. It's really more of a, you know, public domain. So I'm giving you a different taxonomy of the knowledge source. And then, of course, so you have the public domain as a source of knowledge. And then you have, of course, the private source. The private source is going to be more about people who are private collectors. You know, people who might have some very secretive documents, people who might have a very secretive knowledge that is not published in the public domain, for example. That would be another source of knowledge, the private domain source. And then there's another source, which is even more powerful, which we refer to as a primordial domain source. So the primordial domain source is a very interesting knowledge source, because that's where the designs of knowledge, the purpose of knowledge, the design goals of knowledge are actually, you know, determined. But that knowledge source is never published. You'll never find it in newspapers. You'll never find it in mass media, and nobody will even talk about it. I'll just give an example. When the US, for example, invented a nuclear bomb, you know, through their Manhattan Project, for example, they were the only one. They were the only one who had this technological superiority. Russia didn't have any. And what Russia did, so they sent spies to go to America to try to get some information about the Manhattan Project. And they hired, you know, American citizens who spoke fluent American, you know, English. And actually, that knowledge, they gained access to that knowledge. And why did they do that? Because they were trying to access the primordial source of knowledge, which they know that is never published anywhere else. And we know that in a few years' time, Russia also had achieved the same technological advance. So the concept of primordial source is extremely important. Now, why is this important? It's because we also need to know that there are different, forms of knowledge. Usually what people talk about is more of an operational knowledge, but actually there is the other aspect of knowledge, which would be your meta science, which is more of a strategic knowledge of science. Because you see, when you go to Western universities, you learn science, physics, mathematics, whatever. They are really teaching operational knowledge there. You go to mathematics class, they'll say something like x plus x is 2x, x times x is x squared, stuff like that. That's all operations, you see. But they're not saying anything about the design principles. Now, if you are more steeped in the operational knowledge, you cannot really be an innovator, because you are trained to be more of a driver of the car than to be an engineer of the car or a designer of the car. So I'm just saying this to say that indigenous knowledge is very advanced. It's a very advanced knowledge. It's just that it doesn't enjoy that status. And that's why I like some of the comments I was reading saying that maybe we should rethink the way we label indigenous knowledge. Because right now, indigenous knowledge maybe kind of gives it, a low status. So what can you do with indigenous knowledge? What can it actually achieve? So if you look at, for example, let's say in the 1800s, for example, the disease that was killing Europeans was tuberculosis. So Europe didn't have a cure for tuberculosis. And one particular British citizen, he gets diagnosed with tuberculosis. And the doctor says, you know what, there's no cure here. So we are going to send you to South Africa, because we have heard that the indigenous doctors there are able to cure this disease. And we're talking in the 1800s here. And he comes by ship here, and he gets introduced to an indigenous doctor, and he gets a treatment. He actually gets cured. And then he goes back to England. When he comes to England, he goes to the same doctor and says, I'm cured. The doctor says, well, we're going to run the test. And the doctor runs the test and says, actually, you are cured of tuberculosis. And guess what happens out of that? New pharmaceutical companies were created in Europe, particularly in a country of Germany. It's one of the first countries to create a pharmaceutical that was based on that particular medicine plant. And that company makes billions of dollars per year. And they continue to make money as we speak. But the people that have the knowledge, that have a primordial connection to the knowledge, you see, that have access to the primordial source of the knowledge, they are disenfranchised economically, and they live in shacks, they are starving and stuff like that. So you can see that there is a problem with the way we conceptualize about this knowledge. And somebody made a very good point saying that we are not just people who produce resources, right? And it's very important for us to get out of this idea that we just produce resources. Well, guess what? Indigenous knowledge also has become a natural resource. That's exactly how Europeans conceptualize about it. They see indigenous knowledge as a resource. So they send researchers to come to the villages to extract this knowledge. So they have this extractive strategy. They extract this knowledge, they conduct interviews, they collect knowledge and stuff like that. And then the next thing you know, they're gone. Universities of Harvard, Yale, whatever. And then they are promoted, they get PhDs, they get high promotions, and they start companies there based on this knowledge. So it's going to be very critical then that we should think about indigenous knowledge as an engineering tool. You see, it's very important. If you look at antibiotics, there's an antibiotic, for example, tetracycline. If you do Google, it will tell you that it will take you to a website of Pfizer, which is a giant pharmaceutical company, which got a patent in 1952. But guess what? Pfizer is not the inventor of tetracycline. Tetracycline was invented by the Africans more than 1,000 years ago, specifically the Nubians. A number of scientific papers have been written on the subject. Now, but Pfizer is making billions of dollars out of tetracycline, and Africans are starving. There are a lot of examples like that. So how do we then use or conceptualize about indigenous knowledge as something that we can use in terms of innovation, in terms of design, engineering, so that it can begin to give us, the economic livelihood that we need? So one of the things is that, for example, in order to be an innovator, you have to look at knowledge in a broader sense, like I was saying. So don't look at knowledge only as a content. It's a pity because our universities, when they test students, they are testing on content. That's what happens, So the exam becomes a regurgitation system. So you're not producing inventors that way. You see, you are producing operators. So what we need to do now, universities should start thinking about broadening the horizons of the taxonomy of knowledge, to say knowledge is not just about, for example, its content or its domain. Knowledge also has a purpose. The people who created that knowledge, they had a goal in mind, even though that goal is not published, but they had a goal in mind. Which is why I made that example about the Soviet Union sending spies to the US, because they knew that on the public domain, even if you can go and conduct your research and you call it primary research, it's not primary. You see, it's just the knowledge on the public domain. The real knowledge is in the primordial source. And that's why they send those spies to go there, so that they can gain access to the knowledge on the primordial source. So now in that way, we can begin to innovate. So for example, if you look in South Africa here, people that come from outside, like for example, let's say Nigeria, for example, they do very well here in terms of business. And you find the South African has a business degree, I don't know, a school of business or whichever university, and they speak very good English and stuff like that. But when it comes to the business, dololo. And then you see a Nigerian who doesn't have a business degree, but when he comes here, he can establish a business almost from nothing, and he becomes a big business. What's the difference between the two? Well, a South African with a business degree, he doesn't have access to the primordial source of business. He only has an epistemic access. So he only has a knowledge access, textbook access. The Nigerian has got, a primordial source. This was part of his breastfeeding when he was growing as a child. He saw his mother, he saw his father, doing business. And then he grew into it and became part, and it's part of his chromosomes. So you see, it's very critical to think about knowledge in that particular way. Okay. In terms of engineering, for example, if you look at things like pyramids, a pyramid is the most complex engineering project on the planet. And there are also a lot of complex, okay, so I've got 2 minutes, I put an alarm here. Okay, I'm just sum it up. So countries like, for example, in Europe, they have, this is not working for me now. Okay, sorry about that. That's giving me about 2 minutes. So I'm just wrapping up. Okay, so you find that in Europe, they have also complex engineering projects. You take something like Notre Dame, for example, which is considered to be a complex engineering project. There are a lot of universities named after Notre Dame in the US, Notre Dame in Canada, for example. It took almost 200 years to do that project. Notre Dame is a very infinitesimal fraction of the engineering complexity of the pyramid. But the Pyramid of Giza, it took less than 20 years to complete. So that tells us right there that indigenous knowledge has got superior innovative skills, has got superior mathematical engineering skills. Okay, with these words, I would like to say thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you very much for that lovely presentation, Dr. Mchologo. I see also there are some comments coming in. Thank you for that presentation. I would like to call upon our second panelist, who is Dr. George Sidupani. I'm just going to read to you his bio. It says here, Dr. George Sidupani has been a lecturer in the field of traditional, complementary, and alternative medicine for more than 10 years. He is a coordinator of the BICS program, Bachelor of Indigenous Knowledge Systems program in the Eye Care Center. He is an AHPCSA registered phytotherapist. His qualifications include a BSc in Complementary Health Science, Bachelor of Phytotherapy, and a Master's in Child and Family Studies. He is currently pursuing an ICAS doctorate focusing on Botswana vernacular architecture. Dr. Sidupani, you are welcome to start your presentation.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Can I screen share?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Greetings, colleagues and students. I'm discussing how we can make most of our strengths and opportunities. I think one of the things that will be coming through this morning is that most of us are aware that there's potential in IKS, but we don't really take full advantage of what we have access to. I will really focus my attention on the students who are and the graduates who are in this discussions for the day. When we the central word here is knowledge. Let's first discuss the power of knowledge. In the year 2004, there was what is known as the Asian or the Indian Ocean tsunami, which took place in December 26 of that year. Over 500,000 houses were destroyed by the tsunami, and it killed more than 230,000 people. However, the people who survived the tsunami, who were in the area, this girl is named Tilly Smith. She and her parents were in Thailand on a beach on that day. And 2 weeks before they went on this trip, she had been in a lesson where she learned about tsunamis and their signs and how they manifest before they become fully blown disasters. And she saw those signs on the beach, the fizzling of the water, the recession of the wave line. And she began to like scream and want people to get off the beach. And through her insistence, people listened to her, and they survived that disaster. Just from her having known those few points about how a tsunami manifests before it takes place. In the same region, the island of Similo, which had over 80,000 people, it was not very far from the center of the earthquake, and yet only 7 people died in that island. Now, the people of this island passed on a knowledge about tsunamis through poems and through songs. And when they saw the signs of the tsunami, they also moved away from the shores, and they were saved through their knowledge of IKS. So this says to our students that there is value in knowledge, whether it comes through IKS or it comes through other sources. So we need to first of all, be people who value knowledge, who value knowing. And to benefit from knowledge, one needs at least 3 things. I think Tazulu has touched on some of them. The first thing is that one needs to have curiosity and the love of learning. As children, we grow up being curious, but as we go through life, we lose that hunger, that desire, that questioning mind of desiring to know. Okay, to be curious. Give me screen share again. Okay. To be curious is to explore and discover. To take an interest in ongoing experience for its own sake, and to be ever seeking novel experiences, to want to find out new things, and a desire to build knowledge. So as an IKS student, one must nurture their curiosity. You can't, for example, spend 4 years at varsity and only read the prescribed material in your 4 years, never having gone to see what's there in the law section of the library, what's there in other faculties and other places of the library. So one needs to not just do the required readings or assignments and then come out with that paper which you want to go and look for a job using. Okay, so as well as to have the love of knowledge, to learn for the sake of learning. Being curious means you are driven to seek new information, but the love of learning refers to a desire to hold on and to deepen that information. These 2 things one needs to cultivate as an IKS student. The third thing that Tazulu spoke about is creativity. You need that knowledge base to become creative, to think of new ways of doing things, or come up with new ideas, behaviors, products, processes which are useful and meet some need in yourself, in others, and in your community. So as an IKS student, these 3 things you must nurture and cultivate in yourself: curiosity, love of learning, and that will then fuel your creativity to think and to come up with new ideas. Okay. And think of yourself from the word go, from first year, think of yourself as a knowledge producer, not just a knowledge consumer. The ideas you have, put them out through your social media channels, through blogging. You can build yourself as a person who has knowledge from the earliest point of your career in IKS. Now, to progress further with your knowledge, one must be able to see a gap, a problem, or a gap. Okay. Now, the way you come up with a business idea is almost similar to the way you come up with a research idea. Okay, let's saw a line here. Which term is that? Thank you. Okay. In research, you see a problem. which then drives your research, or you see a gap in knowledge. The same thing in business. You see, you find a problem that people have, and then you find a systematic way to address that problem or to address that gap. That's what research is. Okay, these are three crocus one, Bambara groundnuts. These beans are said to be very nutritious. Now I'm curious about these beans. They come in different colors, different coatings, different eyes. So which of these is most nutritious? Do they have the same properties? Do they all grow the same? Which plants can you plant them along with to derive the best from them? So these are things that as you encounter, as you're being introduced to concepts in health, in science, in technology, in arts and culture, be asking questions about these things that you are coming across and seeking answers about them. Okay, I did plant these beans, I think 2 years back, and there was no yield. I tried again this year in a different setting, and it looks like there will be a yield this time. Now I want to just switch to my my research topic, which comes out of my curiosity. Okay. My background is in plant-based medicines and phytotherapy. But I saw that this space of IKS is already a bit congested. And people think IKS, they think herbs, moringa, lingana, those things. So what else is out there in IKS that we're not really fully explored? So I switched my attention to architecture. Now, what is the problem? The problem is that many Africans are homeless, and most of them who have homes, most of those homes are not of a good condition. Let's take Ghana, for example. In Ghana, for the 14 million people who are there, but 5.5 million of them live in slums. Is the screen sharing? Okay. So my PC is slower than my tablet. Okay. Households are overcrowded, with many people sharing small dwelling places. Côte d'Ivoire, more than half the population living in slums, and even worse statistics looking at Mali. So this is the picture we see in Africa regarding homelessness. Coming closer home, more about a fifth of people live on the streets in our country. Last year, I think two years back, we saw people being harassed for living on the street, some even being killed for being homeless. This is the kind of world we don't want to be living in. So housing has been a problem for the past 20 odd years. even still now, it's still a problem. Most of the protests that take place in our country are due to people wanting a place to stay. Now, the government had a plan called the RDP housing project. Now, this plan has helped many people. It's commendable, but also it had many problems which have made those houses a proverb in society. A good number of them were built very poorly, and they were not very well constructed. Some of them on day one, they are falling apart. The government spent over 2 billion rands fixing badly built RDP houses in a space of 3 years. This scheme also did not take into account the cultural aesthetics of the people that this were being built for. There's no culture identity linked with this housing scheme. Okay, so we need to value our heritage, because some of the problems we have, the answer lies in our heritage. Okay, so is one of virtue is industrious. In the Stona culture, the women are the ones who usually build the homes. The men would provide the wood and the thatching, but the women are the ones who build houses. Homelessness was unknown. Everyone with hands could have a place to stay. If you read the accounts of how these buildings were, it's quite impressive. And then the process, meaning that we can do much more when we work together. Today we are very individualistic in how we do almost everything, because we want to be number one, the first, the most of this. But that communal system of working together was a factor in how they accomplished their goals. And then let's see, the one who receives assistance must put in the most effort. Am I still there? Okay. Okay, the last proverb there is that the new ideas are built on old knowledge. Now, there's a good example of this in the completely lost. Okay, just the last idea is that new ideas are built on old knowledge. it's a Setswana saying. That's what the saying means. Okay.
Doc,
These are the Nubian words. These are found near Egypt. They are over 5,000 years old. They are
Doc,
built
sorry.
with mud, bricks, and they are still standing today. So this architect called Hassan Fathi looked into this system and saw a need of how we can improve on them. And these are things that
Can
he
you
came
hear
up
me?
with.
Doc,
Okay. Yes.
I just wanted to caution you a bit about time. So if you could wrap it up.
I'm almost there. 2 minutes will be done.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So in West Africa, as in most countries, housing is often precarious or inaccessible. So this man, Seri Yulo, learned about this discovery by Fathi, but the system which Fathi used was quite complex. So they learned how to simplify the building of these Nubian vaults, and they were able to create a low-cost, low-tech, low-carbon solution using this old system of building. As a result, they've been able to train other people in the communities and to export the knowledge to other countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, Benin, Ghana, from that simple technology. And in their 20 years of existence, they've trained so many people, they have built so many things, and they have made so much money for local communities using local resources that people have got access to. So this shows that there is value in using local knowledge and resources, and that it can meet the needs of people if we just open our minds to different ideas. I will stop here. Thank you, Ms. Amadisi.
Sorry about that. It's Tsakani Nyoni, so it's Miss Nyoni. I think there's some issues with Zoom here. I
Okay,
hope you
thank
can
you.
hear me. I was informed that my sound is a bit distant.
Yes, it's very faint.
Oh no, is it better now?
Yes, it's good.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation. I think also I'd like to also remind our students, I heard you mention something that students should always have: 3 things. It's curiosity, love of learning, and creativity. So I just want to encourage them and hope that they heard that part. And we will continue to engage with your presentation during the interactive session. I would like to call upon Tatana Makanike Justice. I'm just going to read his bio here. So Mr. Chimangadzo Justice Makanike is employed by the University of Venda as a lecturer of IKS, and his responsibilities include teaching both undergraduate and postgraduate students. He is responsible for the facilitation of work integrated learning for the Bachelor of Indigenous Knowledge System qualification in the Department of African Studies within School of Social and Human Sciences. His area of expertise is IKS, International Relations and Community Engagement. He's also a doctoral candidate at the University of Venda doing PhD in African Studies. He holds a master's degree in African Studies, honors degree in International Relations, and a degree in International Relations. He has so far published 2 book chapters and 3 journal articles on IKS and on higher education, teaching, and learning. Mr. Makanike, the floor is yours.
Nakensa, thank you very much. I hope I'll be able to share my screen. Where am I? Yes. Thank you very much, Zakani, for such introduction. I hope now it solves the mystery that I'm not necessarily a doctor as yet, but I'm in the process of attaining that. So it will be proper to call me Mr. as you know. I can't claim the title that I have not yet worked for. So the the people who planned the summit asked me to talk really much about my experiences as a lecturer of IKS at the University of Venda in relations to issues of jobs. So basically, what I'm going to do, I will start by looking at IKH, which I won't bother much, you know, participants and colleagues talking about what IKS is, because I think a lot of speakers has talked to that, and with our history of colonialism and apartheid, we know the civilization mission, which was targeting the African way of being, so that it can be changed and become something else. So I won't dwell much into that. I will talk to the IKS curriculum as we implement it here. I will also talk to greatly and usually about the work integrated learning component of the degree. I will zoom into research and community engagement with regard to mini dissertation and postgraduate research. And then I will also look at some of the opportunities that may be looked at in terms of IKS. So basically, the degree has been approved, planned and approved. I think it was informed by the introduction of the degree was informed by the 2004 IKS policy, and the then Department of Science and Technology, which now is being called Department of Science and Innovations. So it fits to gather institutions and plan the curriculum such that in the process of affirming, giving recognition to IKS, affirmation of the IKS, protection and promotion, even development. So the degree really is looking at serving those purposes of bringing a much larger and bigger recognition to the IKS, as well as affirming the culture, different cultures that we have, that we continue to look at and study, such that we can gain insights and understanding as to how they lived their lives as they continue to, and what we can derive from that, and solution and innovations that can come from their ways of life, so as to try and bring the knowledge itself at par, or integrate it with the current knowledge systems that are there. So of course, the degree, in terms of the higher education prescripts or requirements, the degree has to be approved by SAQA and registered with SAQA and approved by the Council of Higher Education, in terms of all the frameworks that needs to be looked at, or the requirements needs to be met. They were met. So there are also institutional policies and guidelines that guide our teaching and learning within the university, and those are also observed and followed through. We are also guided by the global literature on teaching and learning that informs as to how best learning can be facilitated, how do students learn best and lecturers learn best in collaboration in that efforts. So we're also using the availability of literature that is there about IKS and globally, and we are not only looking at Africa, but we are looking at, other indigenous knowledges that are available in terms of literature to guide our teaching and learning. And the most interesting part within our implementation of this program is that we involve indigenous knowledge holders that we can access in terms of your traditional health practitioners and your traditional leaders and other members of the community who have certain knowledges. We invite them into our classroom on the specific issue that we are dealing with, so that they can provide more insights and more knowledge on the issue, because we all know and realize that a little has been written about in terms of our knowledge systems. So we find it important to have that collaboration with the knowledge holders and give them the space to come and educate our students on areas that we might lack written literature about. And in the process of that, we'll be already trying to do research on that and document, so that the knowledge itself is growing and developing. So just to give a little bit of a background, the degree that I'm talking about is Bachelor of Indigenous Knowledge System, which is a 4-year degree. It's inter and multidisciplinary professional degree. And because we all know and understand that, the indigenous life is a holistic life. We're talking about the way of being, the way of knowing, the way of doing, and the way of life. So the curriculum has got a major concept, philosophies, epistemology, discourse, and research methodology specifically for ICAS in terms of how do we then go about to do indigenous research with indigenous communities. So the degree itself has got 3 or 4 main streams that students are allowed to choose when they go to their 3rd years. These are elective. So it's either students can choose to do African Indigenous Science, Technology and Innovation stream and focus on that stream and specialize on that particular stream. Or students can choose on whether they want to go for African Indigenous healthcare systems, whether they want to go African Indigenous agricultural systems, and lastly, whether they will want or are interested in studying more and knowing more about African Indigenous arts and culture. So those are the 4 streams that students are allowed to choose from when they start their 3rd year, so that they can have that specialization depending on what they would want, they like or enjoy best, and what they want to know more, and specialized with in terms of their professional development. So the African Indigenous healthcare system is highlighted in red on the screen only on the basis that at the University of Venda currently, this is what we are only able to offer in terms of these streams. So these other 3 streams, African Indigenous Science and Technology and Innovation, African Indigenous Agricultural System, and African Indigenous Arts and Culture, we are not offering them at the current moment because of lack of personnel within the department or the discipline. So we are only concentrating on that for now, and we are hoping that with we have now entered a new strategic planning that is starting 2021 to 2025, and we are hoping that this strategic planning, by the end of the year, probably we might be able to have more personnel within the department or within so that we can have a better capacity to can fully implement the program, because we want to fully engage on this program and look at African Indigenous Science, Technology and Innovation fully as a stream. So perhaps there is a need also to talk to the university in terms of increasing staff capacity, in terms of funding for more positions, and also engage the Department of Science and Innovation in terms of providing with maybe better funding and better resource, and higher education department into maybe giving us more money to can hire more people to fully implement this program. So the background photos that you can see is some of our graduate, the first cohort graduated in May 2018. And these are some of them on the graduation day when they were celebrating, the beginning of the new era in their life, celebrating that they've achieved the degree. Some of them, they were telling stories that they are the first ones to achieve this degree in their own family. But that's where the reality of life starts, to say, after the degree, what then? What comes next? So in terms of the work integrated learning components of the degree, this is where they are placed at a workplace, professional workplace, official workplace that deals with IKS, whether from any specific area that might be. And then some of our partners in terms of that are Freedom Park, the museum in Pretoria, the local municipalities that we have in Bembe area. They are also assisting in that, because they've got a lot of components of, we still need to rob in the Department of Arts and Culture in terms of taking our students for work integrated learning. So this is a space which provide the students, when they are on their 4 years and the second semester, the entire second semester, they are required to spend that time with an employer, studying or maybe integrating the theory and the practice and experiencing the professional environment, so that they can develop professionally as IKS practitioners, working with people that are dealing directly with IKS on the daily basis. So some of the experiences that these people have been, the students have been sharing with us, is that, sometimes they are able to discover themselves in terms of, they never knew that they have that potential of capacity of doing that. And one of the classical examples are that we have several students that now has found themselves to be very good in storytelling, and Zakani, being one of them. And they were able to do that in the professional environment that they were, mostly from the Freedom Park, because they have such activities. So participation through that activities assisted them as well to discover themselves on some of the things that they can do, even for you can look at storytelling as a career, you can look at storytelling as a way of sourcing income. There's a lot of opportunity that can be looked at around the area. So one thing that we have already identified as a challenge is that, since our first cohort graduated in May 2018, we haven't had an opportunity to sit down and reflect. But I understand that this particular platform and initiative allowed us that opportunity to sit down and reflect. And now we are looking at the issues of, graduate tracking, looking at since 2018, those that graduated 2018, 2019, 2020, where are they in terms of job employment? In terms of their career, in terms of their life, where are they? What are they doing? Are they doing anything that is related to IKS? So mostly, we don't have the database as yet, but we have managed to contact, quite a number of them, and most of them are nowhere. They are not doing much. They are, some of them are just sitting at home. Some of them are, employed in different sectors, different areas where their skills and knowledge are not utilized or fully utilized. So those are some of the things that the employment challenge is a big issue. They are not getting employment, because of lack of proper understanding about the IKS, even from the government level. So we acknowledge that the Department of Arts and Culture provide us with, our students with funding in terms of bursaries, but we think they are not doing more in terms of that. They should also provide enough space for, work integrated learning, and they should also play a bigger role in terms of providing certain funding that allows more opportunities for our graduate. And maybe going through to the postgraduate level. So in terms of research, what we are currently doing, the degree itself has got a mini dissertation component, where in the process of finalizing, in the process of doing work integrated learning, when they are on their first year, when they are finishing their degree on the fourth year, during the second semester, so they don't attend any module. What they do is work integrated learning and research in terms of writing their mini dissertation. And because of lack of capacity in terms of fully implementation of this program in our department, only focusing on one stream, most of the researches that students are doing at that level of the mini dissertation level, most of them focusing on African traditional medicine. But there are some that are focusing on food security issues. There are also some that are focusing on African traditional education system and African traditional architectural designs. Very few of them, but majority of them are centered on the traditional medicine. African traditional games are some of the areas that are being explored in terms of research currently, especially on the mini dissertation area. So there is a great need of publication of all this work that are being done on that level, mini dissertation level, because we are always saying that, IKS is transferred from one generation to the other through the word of mouth, and that needs to come and end. The generation to come needs to find these things written down so that they can be able to take and read, because transferring from, through the word of mouth, it is proven not to be working effectively, because some dies before they can even transfer the knowledge, and that will talk to the loss in terms of that. So there are some little research also on the climate change adaptation in the area, in the nearby communities. So our students are really doing research, and we are in, most of our research, we send them for external examination at the University of Northwest. I think they are quite aware. I think what we need to do more as university to university collaboration, maybe to look at, ways in which we can assist each other to publish all this work and initiate certain programs that might assist us in terms of research going forward, and source funding from external funders such that we can retain some of our students as master students and PhD students, continue with the research or IKS research in the promotion and development of the IKS, of course. So in terms of the community engagement, there are we have at the University of Venda a directorate of community engagement, which is headed by Prof. Neshandama, and I think this is the directorate that is doing a huge job in terms of involving some of our students into community engagement based on the projects that they are facilitating, that they are busy with. They take some of our students in collaboration with us as a department to do a lot, engage communities, go to communities, investigate about issues, trying to know IKS related problems within the communities, and trying to find ways. And then there's some publications that are coming through such initiative, and we are also able to retain some of the students in the system in terms of studying for their masters. A student started Stakani here. She's doing a master's through the funding related to such projects, and she's also a part-time lecturer at so some of our students are getting some opportunities, and majority of them are not getting any opportunities. So lastly, is this something that I was just jotting down in terms of what are the job prospects? Because I think a number of speakers who spoke previously, they spoke a lot about entrepreneurship, starting a business, being an employer, and we acknowledge very much that not all students are entrepreneurs. Some may just want to be academics, some may just want to be researchers, but some may want just to be employed at the museum and do certain things. But we need to broaden the horizon in terms of what opportunities are there for for IKS students. So basically, I was looking at the government departments, both nationally and down to the municipalities, in terms of on the national level is policy framework and and implementation, and our graduate, by virtue of the nature of the degrees, allows them to to be a better participants in terms of formally policy implementation, especially if we are talking about the IKS policy. So its implementation needs to be guided by the people that are really well vested with the knowledge and understanding about IKS. And I see our students playing a major role in that space as well. So in the municipalities and other government departments, we have a art and culture department, which specifically talks to IKS. There are a lot of departments, all the departments, because if you look at IKS, it's holistic, it's the way of life. So each and every department has got an IKS perspective of that particular department. And I think our our graduates can fit in well within each and every department and provide the IKS perspective in those particular departments and integrate knowledge, and they find solutions of certain problems within departments from the IKS perspective in collaboration with the existing knowledge systems that are prioritized. So in terms of the consultancy, they can open their own business and be consultant in terms of IKS, whether on the policy level, whether in the implementation level, whether if there are certain projects that are coming to certain villages in terms of, how do we then make sure that the culture of life within that particular community is not tampered with, is not disturbed in a major way that can disturb other people's way of life. So in terms of teaching and learning, and then I made an example of Sakano, who is now a part-time lecturer. So because this degree is still very new and is still in very few universities, and a lot of universities are looking at introducing this particular degree. So there will be a need for more IKS students to go into that space and be lecturers and teach the IKS. And they are no more relevant people than the IKS graduates themselves in order to do that. So I think for now I will rest here and then wait for the time for engagement, and maybe we can engage further on issues that I've raised and issues that I've presented about.